If there is anyone who played in MLB and deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, it is Pete Rose. He has the most hits in MLB history with 4,256. No one has even gotten close to him in the last 50 years. The closest that any player has gotten the past 50 years is Derek Jeter with 3,465. So still, he was 800 hits off of Pete Rose. Pete was a special player throughout his 24-year career. He won a Rookie of the Year, an MVP, and he went to 17 All-Star games. Many people believe he is the best hitter in MLB history. He won 3 World Series, solidifying himself as a legend. He is also the last player to ever manage and play at the same time. This was known as a player manager. He was responsible to play the best he could and to make the best in-game decisions. He was special, but it seemed like he was always in the news. From supposedly sleeping with a 16-year-old, from betting $10,000 every day, to eventually being banned from baseball altogether and the MLB Hall of Fame. This is the story of Pete Rose.
Coming up on CNN Sports Tonight, August 24th, 1989, the day baseball lost Pete Rose.
You can imagine this is a very sad day.
I think Pete knew the rules, and he broke them. That's his tough luck.
My comment now is what's going to happen in 5 years when this penalty is erased. Will he still make the Hall of Fame or not?
Pete Rose not being in the Hall of Fame is still one of the most controversial moments in baseball history. He bet on a total of 52 Reds games as a player and as a manager. He was even betting $8,000 to $10,000 in a single day. And to understand how big of a rule that this is that he broke, we have to go back a while. In the 1919 MLB season, the Black Sox scandal would happen, where 8 players on the White Sox would lose the World Series intentionally. After the Black Sox scandal, it became well known that MLB gambling rules were serious, as 8 of the players from this scandal all got permanently banned from MLB. I'm not comparing the Black Sox scandal to Pete Rose, but I am saying these rules were no joke in MLB. For a long time, Rose never made a single bet on baseball. He started playing in 1963 and made his first MLB bet in 1984. In that era of MLB, Rose was a legend, leading the charge in the 1970s to establish the Big Red Machine, aka one of the greatest teams of all time, and no doubt about it, the greatest hitting team ever. 1976 specifically, the Big Red Machine would break records. The team would record an average of 5.29 runs per game, and at the time, the average runs was 3.98. Offensively, they were also better than every single NL team at everything, from runs to average to hits. And in 1979, Rose signed with Philadelphia, where he would sign the largest contract in MLB history. It was a 4-year deal worth $3.2 million, which honestly, it just shows you how much MLB has changed since then, as the newest highest contract was of course $700 million with Shohei Ohtani. But as far as how Pete Rose's contract would go, he would help bring the Phillies to a World Series in 1980. As the 80s approached, everything was about to change. After the 1983 season, Rose would be released and he would sign with the Montreal Expos. Except, he would quickly be traded back to Cincinnati and controversy would ensue. In 1985, he was riding on his last limb, and he was only playing so that he would be the MLB leader in hits. He would end up breaking that record in 1985, except there's a major controversy tied into it. Rose was accused of corking his bat for a long time in the chase of the hit record. A corked bat was a modified bat that was lighter and made it easier to hit baseballs. He would go on to deny it, although it was later proven that he did do it. A man realized that he had a bat that Rose used in 1985. He brought the bat to an X-ray technician who would confirm that there was a foreign substance in this bat. And while they may have not had evidence at the time in the 80s, there is another scandal that they did have evidence for. Pete Rose was being accused of consistently betting. He would admit to it, but he would also lie and say that he never bet on baseball specifically. MLB's commissioner at the time, Bart Giamatti, would put Donald Trump's future lawyer onto this case to figure out if Pete Rose was betting or if he was not. There was plenty of evidence to confirm that Rose was betting on Reds games, and the bookmaker that he was using even admitted this to the attorney. And during the investigation, they found that Rose would bet nearly every single day, $2,000 for one singular bet. He would later accept a permanent ban from baseball in 1989, meaning that he was never going to be a Hall of Famer and would have to step away from the game altogether. His playing days may have been recognized as astonishing, but his post-career was only controversial. 1 year after he was banned, he received 41 write-in votes from the MLB voters to bring him into the Hall of Fame. While these votes were thrown out afterwards, it was a statement to the league that he should be in the Hall of Fame. Every person at the time made their opinion very clear, with many saying that he should be allowed in, and others were saying the opposite. In 1991, he was involved in a tax evasion crime that would put him in jail for 5 months. Rose would remain controversial for many years later because he would keep denying over and over again that he never bet on baseball. But finally in 2004, almost 15 years later, Rose would admit that he did bet on his own team. And you may think of that as a good thing, he admitted it, great, except it was not. The MLB commissioner at the time was developing a plan to bring Rose into the Hall of Fame, but after Pete released his book admitting to everything, he had to scrap this plan because all the attention was going to Pete Rose and it took away everything from the other Hall of Famers. It is clear that Rose broke the gambling rule, but he's also arguably the best hitter ever. In 2017, he was going to be celebrated with the Phillies for their World Series, but reports were surfacing of Pete Rose being accused of statutory rape at the time from an incident in the 1970s. While he was in his 30s, he supposedly slept with a girl before she even turned 16, meaning she was indeed not the legal age of consent. And according to ESPN, Rose confirmed that yes, I did have sexual relations with her, but he believed that she was at least 16. But because the woman came out 50 years later, she was unable to do anything about it as far as the law goes. As the Phillies were celebrating Pete Rose and the World Series team, a reporter asked Rose what he would say to people who say that his presence sends a negative message to women. He responded with, "No, I'm not here to talk about that. Sorry about it. It was 55 years ago, babe." He also said, "You weren't even born, so you shouldn't be talking about it because you weren't born. If you don't know a damn thing about it, don't talk about it." This was one of the last times that we would really hear about this incident. But last year, Rose was back into the news with this. At 81 years old, as soon as Ohio made sports betting legal, Rose made sure to make a bet on day one for the Reds to win the World Series in 2023. And as of most recently, Rose has been back in headlines because of superstar Shohei Ohtani. The face of baseball, Ohtani, is in an ongoing investigation because of gambling. Supposedly, his interpreter stole millions of dollars from Ohtani to pay off his own illegal gambling debt. But because of an inconsistent story, people are accusing Ohtani of being the one who was betting and making his interpreter the fall guy. We have no evidence that Ohtani actually did gamble anything, and as of right now, we don't know what happened. But fans have made their message to MLB clear. If Pete Rose got punished so harshly, Ohtani should have the same treatment if he is found guilty of betting. I am no conspiracy theorist, therefore I will wait for the evidence to come out. As for Pete Rose, he already made his statement very clear.
Well, back in the 70s and 80s, I wish I'd have had an interpreter. I'd be scot-free.
So yeah, Rose is under the impression that interpreter Mizuhara is the fall guy for Ohtani and that Ohtani was the one making these bets. If you want the facts about the situation, go watch my Ohtani video from a few days ago. We'll see what happens, but Pete Rose remains controversial to this day and will most likely never be an MLB Hall of Famer.